Welcome to the History Story Podcast. All right, get this. This week we are going on a historic road trip, and you know the drill. We're going back in time, way back to December 1980. Picture this: the eerie pine forests of Suffolk, England. Okay, so now when I say UFOs, I know what usually comes to mind, right? But just hold on. Forget those typical images for a sec, because this story, well, it's often called Britain's Roswell, and it involves, get this, U.S. Air Force personnel, the possibility of nuclear weapons, and events so strange, so bizarre, you'd think they came straight out of, like, an X-Files episode. Seriously. You guys, our listeners, you're fascinated with unexplained historical events, and we get it, we are too. So trust me, this one's a doozy. We're going to unpack the whole wild case of the Rendlesham Forest incident.
It's a story that's captured imaginations for, well, decades now. And when you look into the details, the stuff that's in history books and those uncovered sources, it's clear this was no ordinary event. The layers of mystery, they just keep unfolding.
Totally, totally. And to really grasp this whole historic road trip, picture this: December 1980, Cold War, right? At its peak. Tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union through the roof, constant anxiety just hanging in the air. Now, right in the middle of all this, nestled in Suffolk, were these twin U.S. Air Force bases: RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge. Now, Woodbridge, that's the key location. It was, get this, a storage site for nuclear weapons. So imagine this environment already thick with secrecy, super high stakes, and then something unusual happens near a facility like that. Yeah, major red flags.
Exactly. It's not just a minor detail, right? This happening near a nuclear storage facility, that completely changes the game. We're not just talking lights in the sky. This is potential national security threat level stuff during a period of, let's face it, global instability.
Yeah.
So the question is, what did those lights really mean in that context?
Right, exactly. And then Christmas week, 1980, early hours of December 26th, bam, something totally unexpected. Security patrolmen near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge, they report seeing strange lights descending into, yep, you guessed it, Rendlesham Forest. Now, these weren't your average aircraft lights. These were, people described them as, well, something else entirely. We're talking lights that mess with Geiger counters. You know, those things that detect radiation, and these seasoned military guys, they were seriously uneasy. And this wasn't just some rumor, right? It starts with official reports from the very people guarding some of the most sensitive military assets on the planet.
And that's key, right? The first reports come from trained security personnel on active duty. These folks, they see aircraft all the time, nighttime stuff, it's normal for them. But this was something else, something strange enough to make them report it. What could have been so out of the ordinary for these experienced guys?
Okay, so let's dive right into this mystery. Let's take our historic road trip right to Rendlesham Forest. Those first reports of the lights, they led to the first night's investigation. A small team, we're talking Staff Sergeant Jim Penniston and Airman John Burroughs, they go into this pitch-black forest thinking maybe it's a downed aircraft, but what they find, oh, it was way weirder than any plane crash.
So their accounts and the reports that follow paint a picture of not wreckage, but a glowing metallic object. Descriptions vary a bit, but generally it's triangular, either hovering silently just above the ground or resting on something that looked like, get this, tripod landing gear. Can you imagine stumbling upon that in the middle of the night?
And here's where it gets wild. Penniston, he gets so close to this thing, he actually touches it. He describes it as smooth, warm to the touch, and he sees these symbols etched onto its side, strange, kind of like hieroglyphics. And he sketches them right there in his official notebook. Then, poof, just as quickly as it appeared, this thing lifts off silently and vanishes like super fast. And back at the base, other personnel report seeing strange lights too. The reaction, not just a, must have been a plane. Nope, it's pure bewilderment and this creeping unease. This was not your typical aircraft incident.
Yeah, and Penniston's detailed account of the object, the fact that he touched it, the symbols he saw, those sketches, it takes it beyond just a visual thing. He claims he had a physical interaction with something totally anomalous. And those sketches, they become a key part of this puzzle.
Okay, so the weirdness, it doesn't stop there. Next day, investigators, they go back to the site in Rendlesham Forest. And guess what they find? Physical evidence. We're talking 3 distinct triangular depressions in the ground, totally fitting with something having tripod landing gear, right? Broken pine branches above the site, too, like something big had been hovering or moving through the trees. And here's the kicker. Radiation readings taken at the site, reportedly higher than normal, especially in those triangular depressions.
Right, so the physical evidence, that changes everything. Because now it's not just eyewitness accounts. Of course, people debate how to interpret it, but those depressions, broken branches, the radiation readings, officially noted, and that makes you think something really did happen there. The question is, what caused all that, especially so close to a nuclear storage facility. What kind of tech or natural event could leave those marks?
Right, it raises all these unsettling questions, but it gets weirder because the lights, they come back a couple of nights later, on or around December 28th. And this time, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander, initially he was skeptical, but he decides to lead a larger patrol into the forest himself. He's determined to find a normal, rational explanation for all of this.
So Halt getting personally involved, that's a big deal. Because of his rank, his initial skepticism, right? He wasn't someone who just believed in, like, the paranormal or whatever. But the fact that he felt he had to lead this investigation himself, that shows you how concerned they were, how much they didn't have an explanation for what happened. So what pushed a deputy base commander to head into the forest at night because of these reports?
Now, here's the thing, Halt. He takes a microcassette recorder with him, and their experience that night, it's all captured on tape. What they describe as they're moving through the trees, it's bizarre. Lights darting through the trees, crazy speeds, hovering silently, even dripping what they describe as molten metal or light. At one point, a super bright light beams down near them, and another one, it seemed to break apart or explode into multiple objects before shooting off towards the coast. And on the recording, you can hear Halt's voice, his disbelief, his astonishment. It's clear. This wasn't just seeing distant lights that could be explained away. This was a close encounter witnessed and documented in real time by a high-ranking officer.
That tape, the Halt tape, it's crucial evidence in this case because it gives you a first-hand account right then and there from a witness who, as a senior military officer, is pretty credible. Listening to it, you hear the genuine surprise, the confusion, the lack of any normal explanation in his voice as all this unfolds around him and his team. It's not just remembering things later, it's a recording of something truly strange happening.
So, with all this weirdness, credible military witnesses, even physical evidence, what was the official explanation? Well, the British Ministry of Defense, the MOD, they investigate, and their conclusion. The events were no threat, and likely caused by, get this, beams of light from a nearby lighthouse, maybe combined with a meteor seen over southern England.
And this became the official story, right? Attempting to give rational, conventional reasons for what everyone saw. Lighthouses, those beams, they can create unusual visual effects sometimes. And meteors, definitely dramatic, they appear and disappear quickly. So the idea was to connect the sightings to normal, natural stuff.
But this official explanation, a lot of the key witnesses strongly contest it. I'm talking Lieutenant Colonel Halt, Staff Sergeant Penniston, Airman Burroughs. They insist what they saw, it didn't act like a lighthouse beam or a meteor at all. The intelligent movement of the lights, the close-up physical object Penniston encountered, those physical traces left in the forest, all of that points away from the official explanation. And this huge difference between what the witnesses say and the official findings. Well, it's fueled accusations of a cover-up for decades. Were authorities downplaying something big, or was it just a big misunderstanding of natural events?
Right. It's that conflict, that tension between those detailed eyewitness accounts from credible military guys, the physical evidence, and an official explanation that just doesn't seem to fit. That's what keeps the Rendlesham mystery alive. That's what's led to all the alternative theories trying to explain what truly happened.
So let's look at some of the main theories, shall we? First up, the lighthouse saga. Okay, so the Orford Ness Lighthouse. It was operational, but could its beams really explain everything? Lights that seem to move intelligently, a solid object on the ground, those landing marks, the radiation, and Halt's descriptions of the lights in the forest, even dripping something. Witnesses, like Halt himself, they say, nope, not even close to a lighthouse beam.
Yeah, the lighthouse theory, it kind of explains bright lights in the area, but it can't really explain the specifics, right? How could a lighthouse beam make a physical object you can touch? How could it explain radiation readings? And the big one, how could it explain the lights moving in such a deliberate, purposeful way that multiple people saw? It seems too simple. It doesn't really hold up when you look at what the witnesses said and what the evidence shows.
Okay, then there's the idea of meteor, plus mistaking other lights for something strange. A bright meteor streaking across the sky, maybe with some stars, planets, or even distant aircraft. Could that be it? Well, again, this theory struggles to explain those close encounters, especially Penniston touching the object on the ground and the physical evidence left behind. It's hard to imagine a meteor, something so high up and temporary, leaving behind those triangular depressions and the radiation readings.
Yeah, it's possible, right? Maybe some of the distant light, they could have been meteors or something. But this theory can't explain the really important stuff. That ground-level encounter, the detailed descriptions of the object, and the physical evidence found where it landed. Plus, These strange events happened over several nights, so a meteor explanation, it starts to seem less and less likely.
Now, what about secret military tech? Think about it. Cold War tensions, could those lights have been, I don't know, some super advanced aircraft, maybe even Soviet tech? It's plausible, right? Maybe some cutting-edge plane was flying around and the people on the ground didn't know about it.
The secret military technology idea. It makes sense when you think about the time period, the Cold War, and being near those military bases. It could explain the strange appearance of the object, how fast it moved, all of that. But then you got to ask, why would you test something potentially dangerous so close to a nuclear weapons storage site? I mean, you risk setting off alarms, maybe even a security breach. And the physical evidence, the suppressions, the radiation, that's not really something you see in normal aircraft tests, even if it's experimental stuff.
Okay, and then there's the theory that seems to resonate the most with the witnesses and a lot of researchers: extraterrestrial vehicle. The descriptions, glowing, metallic, triangular, moving silently and super fast, it kind of matches what people say about UFOs in other parts of the world. And being so close to a nuclear weapons facility, it adds to the mystery, even if it's just speculation.
Yeah, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, it tries to explain the most unexplainable parts of Rendlesham. You know, how those lights seem to move intelligently, the unique characteristics of the object, the fact that no one can really explain it with normal stuff. But here's the thing. With any claim like that, we need solid scientific proof, which we don't really have. So this theory relies a lot on whether you believe the eyewitnesses and the fact that no conventional explanation really works.
And of course, there's the theory that maybe it was all just like a collective delusion. Could the stress of the Cold War, combined with, people misinterpreting normal things, lead to a shared but exaggerated experience?
It's true. Our minds can play tricks on us. Stress can affect what we see and hear. But the details in the reports, from all those trained observers, including Halt, who was skeptical at first, plus the physical evidence, it's hard to explain all that away as just psychological stuff. Stress and misinterpretation, they can't create triangular depressions in the ground or radiation readings, right?
The Rendlesham Forest incident, this whole historic road trip we've been on, it's earned the nickname Britain's Roswell. And for good reason. It's a major event in ufology, in the study of what we call UAPs now, unidentified aerial phenomena. Why? Because of those credible military witnesses and official documents, like the Halt memo. That memo, written by Lieutenant Colonel Halt to the MUD, it confirms everything. The key events, the fact that a senior officer saw all this weirdness himself.
That Halt memo, it's like an official record, right?
Yeah.
What the deputy base commander saw, documented right when it happened. And having that document part of the military's own files, it gives weight to what the witnesses say. It shows how truly unusual this event was. The fact that a high-ranking officer wrote such a detailed report, that tells you how seriously the military took it at the time.
And the Rendlesham story, it's still going strong, even after 40 years. Books, documentaries, debates, all inspired by this case. Even now, with all the renewed interest in UAPs by governments and scientists, Rendlesham stands out. A major historical example of the military encountering unexplained things in the sky. And we still don't have a definitive answer.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Even trained observers like military personnel, they can see things that we just can't explain with what we know. It keeps the conversation about UAPs going, and it shows us how important it is to stay open-minded, but also critical when we're dealing with things that might be beyond our current scientific understanding.
All right, let's dig into some of the more intriguing details, those deeper cuts that make Rendlesham even more mysterious. First up, the Halt tape itself. That recording made by Halt and his team in the forest, it's chilling, a real-time account of everything. You hear him describing the lights, how they moved, how strange they looked. He says at one point, it looks like an eye winking at you. It's like you're right there with them experiencing this weirdness.
And listening to that tape, you really are transported there, into the dark forest, next to those officers. You can hear the change in Halt's voice, going from investigating to being totally confused and amazed by what they're seeing. That first-hand account, recorded right as it happened, it's invaluable. You can really feel it.
Then there's Penniston. He claims that he received binary code telepathically after touching that object on the first night. He says he wrote it down, and years later, when it was supposedly decoded, it had cryptic messages, even coordinates. This is a big point of debate, right? Some people say, see, alien contact. Others, they're skeptical. It came out years later. No one else confirmed it.
Yeah, the binary code thing, that's a wild card. It's definitely interesting, but the fact that he didn't mention it in his first reports, that it's all based on his word, and that so much time passed before you talked about it, it makes it hard to say for sure, and it's why people are skeptical.
We also can't forget the radiation readings, right? People argue about how high the levels were, but the fact is they were elevated, especially at the landing site in those triangular depressions. That localized increase in radiation, no matter how small, it's not just normal background radiation.
Yeah, the elevated radiation, even if it wasn't dangerous, it gives you this physical data that points to some unusual energy source being there. And it was concentrated in those depressions, so it connects the radiation to where that object landed. The question is, what could create an energy signature like that?
And then, of course, there are those physical marks, the depressions, the triangular pattern, the damage to the trees above. This tells us that something interacted with that specific spot in Rendlesham Forest. We're not talking about vague descriptions. These are physical traces, officially documented.
Those physical traces, they're the most concrete evidence we have that something happened there. The triangular depressions, that's especially intriguing because it matches what witnesses said about the object's shape. And the damaged trees, that supports the idea of something large being close to the ground, maybe even landing.
Finally, there's the halt memo, the report for the Maj. It was leaked to the public, and that created even more debate and attention around Rendlesham. It meant that independent researchers, journalists, everyone could look into the details without having to go through official channels and their limited explanations.
That leak, that was a turning point for Rendlesham. It took a military document and put it out in the open so more people could analyze it, discuss it, question what the Maji said. And that's probably why people are still so interested in this case. It didn't just disappear because of that leak.
So, after this historic road trip, what do you think? Was it all just natural events, maybe made more dramatic by Cold War fears? Was it secret military stuff that got out of hand? Or was it, as some believe, something truly unknown, something that changes how we understand the world? Credible witnesses, official documents, those conflicting explanations, it all leaves us with more questions than answers.
Right, and that's why Rendlesham is still so captivating. You have these reliable eyewitnesses, well-documented events, and so many unanswered questions. It makes you think about how much we really understand and how much we still don't, and it keeps us open to the possibility of things that might be beyond our current scientific knowledge.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg, this historic road trip. So we encourage you, dive in deeper, read the halt memo, listen to the halt tape. It's pretty spooky, but definitely fascinating. Read those firsthand accounts, explore the different theories. The UK National Archives, they have Mahdi files on Rendlesham, all available to the public. And there are tons of books and documentaries, all with different perspectives on this case. And hey, if you're ever in Suffolk, walk the UFO trail in Rendlesham Forest. It's a real, tangible connection to this mystery.
Exactly. Looking at those original sources, the different analyses, it's how you form your own opinion about Rendlesham. There's so much info out there for anyone who wants to dig deeper and really grapple with this mystery.
And as we wrap up this historic road trip, here's something to think about. In a world full of secrets, especially military secrets, and where what we know about the universe is always changing, how comfortable are we with the unexplained, especially when credible people are the ones seeing it? What does Rendlesham tell us about the limits of what we can explain, and the fact that there are things out there we just don't understand? Keep those history questions coming, and join us next time for another awesome story from the world of flash culture right here on the History Story Podcast.